let's talk about this thing called adversity. How many of you would say that the world has definitely been changing dramatically over the past couple of years? Let me see your hand. All right. Let's talk about this thing we call the new normal. What role does adversity really play in our lives today? Well, some of you would argue pretty dominant. Like, for example, if you watch Fox News, what percentage of the stories are stories of some kind of adversity? Well, we have some research on that, and it shows that the number has been growing steadily for the past 15 years. What about you today? I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'll ask you to respond out loud. As you look at it, let's take this first of all from a business side, and then sort of a general society side. As you look at the horizon of your business, in your industry, and when you think about the world we're in today, as you look out a year or two, tell me, do you see things becoming faster or slower? Okay, do you see things becoming easier or tougher? Do you see things becoming more organized or more chaotic? And do you see them getting simpler or more complex? Are they getting more predictable or more uncertain? And are things becoming more or less demanding? Have I cheered you up? And for how long is this going to go on? How would you have answered these questions 5 years ago? How are you going to answer them in 5 years? So when's this going to end? I mean, how many of you have this date, in your Palm Pilot? March 27th, 2007. Everything gets easier from here. Some of us call that retirement. But I got news for you. Retired people don't face less adversity. They just face different adversity. So this is our reality. Think about the implications for ourselves, our teams, our enterprises, for the people we love and care about, for our children, and for our society. Well, that's interested me for the entire career that I've had doing what I do, which is researching this, which has been the past 23 years. The moment of truth is not waking up in the morning, looking at yourself in the eye in the bathroom mirror, and saying, I like myself, I like myself. Each day in every way I get better and better. Hey, if you do that stuff, don't tell anyone. You can't hurt anything, but it turns out the moment of truth is what sparks inside of this thing called a human being the moment you face. Why? Well, can I tell you a funny story about one of your competitors? First time I had the privilege of being interviewed on CNN, here's what happened. They fly me to Atlanta. I like to be prepared, so I check in early, and I'm all ready and everything. And they immediately run up to me and go, Dr. Stoltz, you're on right now. I'm like, wow, it's an hour early, but okay. So they run me out there, set me down, powder my dome, stick the thing in my ear, and they're suddenly going, 5, 4, 3, 2. And as they're doing this, I look over and I notice that the anchor woman, very famous anchor woman, with that beautiful set, has a copy of my book. And my book, as Sean mentioned, was called Adversity Quotient. And she has it upside down. And I'm thinking, maybe this is some sort of media trick, right? And so as they're counting down, she turns to me as soon as they go, 1. She turns to me and she says, Dr. Schmaltz, this book you've written, The Diversity Quotient, sounds very interesting. Is your basic premise that the more diverse your ethnic background is, that the more interesting your perspective is on life? And you know how they keep nodding? And I think I said something brilliant like, well, sort of. And I spent the rest of the interview helping her recover from this completely irrelevant question. Well, now, in contrast, I was doing a weekend radio interview in the southeastern United States. It was a regional weekend thing, call-in show. I love call-in shows. And it was call-in time, and this gentleman calls in and he goes, Dr. Stoltz, I got a question for you. And I said, yes, sir, what is it? He said, this adversity thing, where's that come from? And I said, sir, that's one of the most important questions you can ask. He goes, well, I thought so. Because think about it. Is this just something we're born with? Is this just some gift your parents gave you or denied you? Or is it something else? Well, let's think about that for a moment. How many of you in this audience would say you have your own unique way of laughing? Raise your hands. Isn't that miraculous? 6.4 billion people in the world. Each one laughs their way. How does that happen? Well, it's sort of like this. It turns out as a young child, you roam the planet sort of like this, going, paying keen attention to how the influential people in your life respond to life's funny stuff. And you pick up bits and pieces of their patterns of laughter without ever saying, you know, Mom, I want 21% of yours. Grandpa, I'll take 11% of yours. And, you know, Sponge Bottom SquarePants, I'll take 14% of yours. You don't do that. And around the age of 12, these patterns are firming. And around the age of 16, they become hardwired. Please say that word. For the rest of your life. So now, look what does not happen. When something funny happens, you do not step back and say, given the entire menu of possible laughters, I'll choose number C27. Ah-ha-ha, ah-ha-ha-ha. See? You just laugh your laugh. It's beautiful. It's automatic. Well, same thing happens with this adversity thing. What it turns out is that when adversity strikes, as a young child, you watch how the influential people in your life respond to life's tough stuff, and you pick up bits and pieces of their patterns of response without ever saying, hey, brother, I'll take 14% of yours, and my other brother, I'll take 18% of yours. And around the age of 12, these patterns are firming, and around the age of 16, they become, for the rest of your, You've been living with this thing. It's in there. And we didn't even know it exists. You know how they say fish can't see the water they're swimming in? And it's just like you can't see the color of the lens on your own eye. And that's the best analogy I can think of for how this plays. So, one of the things we know about this is that we respond to adversity in hardwired patterns. Second of all, these patterns can be, we're not good at judging this in people. We gave Olympic coaches a 50-50 chance of guessing how well their athletes would deal with a setback. They were wrong 75% of the time, and you know why? They thought that in order to succeed, you must have a positive, how many times have you heard it? Bought the book, bought the tapes, got the program. But let me challenge it just a little bit. Tell me which is more likely, number one or number two. You ready? Which is more likely, number one, that a person with a happy, upbeat attitude will consistently deal well with life setbacks? Or number two, a person who consistently deals well with life setbacks and adversities will, as a result, have and sustain an optimistic outlook on life? Number one or number two? See? So when we peel back the layers on this cult of happy think that we've grown up in, we begin to realize that what really undergirds any authentic optimism has to do with how we respond to adversity. Well, what's at the heart of the matter? Well, two things that are really interesting, and before I tell you what they are, I'd like you to think about the implications, not just personally, but think about the implications professionally. Think about yourselves at work. Think about your teams at work. Think about the adversities and challenges that you deal with today at work. And think about what your part of the business is striving to accomplish. Because today, we have the technology to measure this more robustly than the SATs, GREs, LSATs, you name it. As a matter of fact, we have measured this in more than 500,000 people worldwide. And predicts many things. Second of all, not only can it be measured, it can be permanently. And I say this carefully because, first and foremost, I am a researcher. So we are a research and consulting firm. This can be permanently rewired